Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the most powerful lessons in life come from places we least expect. Sometimes they are not taught by professors, leaders, or experts, but by children who carry an innocence and honesty untouched by the corruption of the world. What I am about to share is not simply a story about wealth and power, nor is it just a tale of injustice and prejudice being exposed. It is about the strength of human decency, the courage to stand for what is right, and how a single act of honesty from a 6-year-old child reshaped the destiny of an empire and the lives of many who came after. Thomas Mitchell was a billionaire who had built his fortune through relentless discipline, sharp intelligence, and a drive that pushed him from modest beginnings to global success. By 45, he had everything that money could buy: sprawling estates, private jets, and a company that was admired in financial circles. But despite all this, his heart carried a heavy burden. He had recently discovered that a trusted business partner had stolen $3 million from him. For Thomas, the betrayal cut deeper than the financial loss. It shattered his faith in people. He began to wonder if there was anyone left in this world who was truly honest, who would not be corrupted by temptation. His wealth was immense, and he saw how greed infected those around him like a disease. He resolved to test the world in his own quiet way to see if purity of character still existed. He chose an unusual moment for his test. In his grand office, a safe sat open, stuffed with more money than most people could ever dream of seeing in a lifetime. Piles of bills were stacked carelessly, left in a way that would invite anyone with weak morals to take even a fraction of it and walk away richer than they had ever been. Thomas sat back in his leather chair, pretending to be asleep, though in truth he kept his eyes half open, his breathing steady and his senses alert. He wanted to observe without being observed. That evening, as on many evenings before, his night cleaning staff arrived. Diana Jefferson, a hardworking single mother, entered the office with her young daughter Jasmine. For 2 years, Diana had worked cleaning Thomas's company, often bringing her little girl during school holidays or late shifts when she had no one else to watch her. Jasmine, a bright-eyed 6-year-old, wore tiny pink gloves her mother had given her so she could feel useful while accompanying her. She was a child full of curiosity, innocence, and an eagerness to learn from her mother. As Diana set about dusting shelves and tidying the office, Jasmine wandered toward the desk where Thomas pretended to be asleep. The child's eyes widened at the sight of the enormous stacks of cash. Imagine the wonder of a little girl who had probably never held more than a few dollars at a time, suddenly seeing fortunes piled before her like a treasure chest. Thomas held his breath, convinced he was about to watch temptation claim yet another victim, even if the victim was only a child. He had prepared himself to feel disappointment, but what happened next changed his life. Jasmine did not steal. She did not even reach for the bills with greedy hands. Instead, she frowned a little, noticing the disorder in which the money was piled. To her, it looked messy, like coins at home that she had once learned to sort with her mother. With the focus of a tiny accountant, Jasmine began carefully stacking and organizing the bills by denomination, smoothing them into neat piles with her small gloved hands. She whispered to her mother, "Mommy, Mr. Thomas's money was all messy, so I fixed it, just like you taught me to do with our coins." Diana, startled, rushed to stop her. "Jasmine, you can't touch the boss's things." But the girl answered with innocent certainty, "It was messy, Mom. He'll be happy when he wakes up and sees everything tidy." In that moment, Thomas felt something stir within him that had long been buried: emotion, trust, and even tears. A little girl who could have easily pocketed a bill or two instead chose to bring order and care. She had no guilt because she had nothing to hide. Her honesty was pure, uncalculated, and free from the corrupt logic of adults. For Thomas, this was a revelation. It reminded him that honesty still existed, sometimes in the simplest and smallest hearts. He could not yet imagine how this small act would ripple outward, changing not only his life but the lives of Diana, Jasmine, and even the structure of his company. In the weeks that followed, Thomas observed Diana and Jasmine more closely. He noticed that Diana worked exhausting double shifts, cleaning at his company at night and a doctor's office in the morning, just to make ends meet. Jasmine often accompanied her, sitting quietly with homework or entertaining herself with drawings while her mother scrubbed floors and polished desks. What struck Thomas most deeply was the moral lessons Diana taught her daughter. He overheard her once saying, "We always return what isn't ours even if no one is watching. Our honesty is worth more than money." Diana's story was not one of privilege. She had grown up in foster care after losing her parents as a child. She had struggled to finish high school, dreamed of college but could not afford it, and had been left alone to raise Jasmine after the child's father abandoned them. Yet despite these struggles, she carried herself with quiet dignity, never asking for charity, never bending her values. She poured those same values into Jasmine, giving her the kind of education that money cannot buy. Thomas, moved by this quiet strength, began increasing Diana's salary secretly, framing it as a company adjustment. But this act of kindness caught the eye of the wrong man. Richard Blackwood, the company's vice president, noticed the changes in payroll. Richard was the son of one of the company's founders, a man who had never earned his position but inherited it, steeped in arrogance and prejudice. He confronted Thomas, mocking him for giving more money to the cleaning staff and sneering at Diana for bringing her child to work. He claimed such people would always demand more if given anything. His words dripped with racism and contempt. Thomas's anger grew, but he kept silent, knowing that Richard's arrogance would one day be his undoing. That undoing came sooner than expected. Richard began harassing Diana, confronting her with threats, accusing her of receiving improper favors for the salary increase, and even frightening Jasmine with his cruelty. Thomas, watching through security cameras, felt righteous fury ignite within him. He had tolerated enough. This time, he would not simply observe, he would act. Unbeknownst to Richard, Thomas had a secret advantage. The same security system Richard himself had once approved to monitor employees now recorded his every abusive word. And Thomas had an ally, Marcus Chun, a former FBI investigator who had helped him in past corporate battles. Together, they began collecting evidence. Richard's arrogance worked against him, for he could not resist bragging, insulting, and plotting. Soon, Thomas and Marcus had a dossier filled with his history of harassment, discriminatory behavior, and plans to destroy Diana by framing her for theft. The decisive moment came when Richard planted an expensive Rolex in Diana's cleaning cart, planning to catch her with stolen property and call the police. But this time Thomas was ready. Cameras captured every detail of Richard planting the watch, receipts traced the purchase back to him, and Marcus coordinated journalists to witness the confrontation. When Richard triumphantly accused Diana in front of guards and reached for his staged evidence, Thomas stepped in. Calmly, he dismantled Richard's accusations, revealed the recordings, exposed his racist posts, and presented proof of his conspiracies. Reporters captured every word, and soon the world saw Richard not as a powerful executive but as a disgraced bigot caught red-handed. Richard was arrested, stripped of his shares, abandoned by his family, and his career ended in humiliation. Diana was vindicated completely. But Thomas did not stop there. He promoted her, eventually making her director of human resources. He discovered she had once studied business and helped her complete her education. Together they launched programs for diversity, scholarships for employees' children, and initiatives that transformed the company into a national model of inclusion. As for Jasmine, the little girl whose honesty had sparked everything, she flourished. With scholarships and a private education, she dreamed of becoming a lawyer to defend others from injustice. Thomas grew close to her, treating her like family, often reminded that the integrity of a 6-year-old had restored his own faith in humanity. Meanwhile, Richard's downfall was total. He served prison time, lost his wealth, his marriage, and even his children's respect. His name became synonymous with corporate prejudice and arrogance, studied in business schools as an example of how hatred and abuse can destroy even the most privileged careers. Years later, Thomas created the Jasmine Jefferson Educational Fund, offering scholarships for generations to come. He admitted publicly that the greatest lesson of his life came not from his millions, not from boardrooms, not from professors at Harvard, but from a little girl who chose to tidy money rather than steal it. That simple act reminded him that goodness, when nurtured and defended, can transform the world. The true justice in this story was not just Richard's imprisonment or his downfall. True justice was watching Diana rise from invisible laborer to leader, watching Jasmine thrive as a symbol of hope, and watching an entire company shift from ordinary profit-making to being a beacon of fairness and inclusion. The story reminded